And the reason that there is no such thing as a brontosaurus is they actually got confused. They got very confused about the way that two different dinosaurs, apparently, is it an apatosaurus? Apatosaurus, and it was called a brontosaurus, and there was another one that was a long-necked dinosaur that, anyway, there is no such thing as an apatosaurus, but in fact, there is a such thing as a brontosaurus. So maybe. They're not totally sure. But there's some really cool charts and a really cool article about it. And they're saying, well, is it scientific consensus that should we declare that there is or isn't one kind of genus? And anyway, if dinosaurs are interesting to you and you want to read about this kind of thing, there's a neat article that'll be in the show notes. Show notes are at 5by5.tv/dbh/ what episode is this, Hattie?
24.
Okay.
Yeah.
So that's where it'll be. 5by5.tv/dbh/24 or danbenjamin.com/dbh/24. You get the idea. Go there and check it out. Also, what I've done is I've added a little newsletter functionality there. So if, for example, you're concerned that you can't watch the show, for some reason or other you couldn't watch the show or you couldn't listen to the show, but you wanted to see what we talked about, the links will be sent to you in a simple email newsletter. It'll also is a neat way to let you know when the show is published. You'll get that at about 5 or 6 p.m. every day. That'll be out for you. Maybe I'll make it earlier. I don't know. I don't care. As long as you get it in the day, you can go and you can download it. And if you miss being able to watch, there are those links right there for you. And, of course, we would never spam you or anything like that. And speaking of spam, Apple is taking heat from barring the felons. Remember we talked about that? Well, there is a new article that came out on this where they've been trying to get a comment from Apple. Apple is declining to comment, but more and more people in politics are jumping in saying that they don't like it. There are certain positions where there is some nexus between the crime committed and the position offered. Construction does not appear to be one of those, said Senator Mark Lino, Democrat in San Francisco. In this situation, I would strongly suggest that this policy be changed. Union leaders told the San Francisco Chronicle that several workers suddenly lost their jobs, right? We talked about that on Tuesday. Or was it Monday? There's a lot. People are up in arms about this. Union leaders are sending letters expressing their concerns to CEO Tim Cook. Apple has no comment. Both Facebook and Intel said they do not have blanket policies that prohibit workers with felony convictions from building offices. It's up to Intel's contractors to evaluate whether they meet that company's hiring standards. And they handle everything on a case-by-case basis. I don't like case-by-case basis, Hattie. Do you approve of a case-by-case basis in something like this? Shouldn't there be a policy?
Yeah.
Because otherwise it could seem unfair. There's one guy who's got a kid. He doesn't get the job, but some other guy, he spent 6 months. I don't know. I don't know. It's a complicated mess. Oh, by the way, we have some really great guests for you today. Hattie, who are our guests today?
Our guests today are Jen Simmons.
Jen Simmons of the Web Ahead, and a number of other amazing websites. She has been doing the Web Ahead, a show here on 5by5 for years, decades almost. And I'm thrilled to have her as a guest. She and I used to actually do a daily show called The Daily Edition. She was my co-host for that. Not producer like you.
No.
She was a co-host. That's a fully elevated position. And then who is our second?
Mark Bramhill.
Mark Bramhill of the Wisconsin Bramhills. And he has a wonderful, wonderful, not on 5by5 podcast that is called Welcome to the Mac. Welcome to Macintosh, which is what it used to say, or maybe still says, when you first boot your computer. And they used to use that in their slogans and stuff. An amazing, amazing podcast. So he's going to be up. Who's first? Is it Jen first?
Up to you.
I'll roll the die. We will need to roll the die for that. Some good news, I guess, for Star Wars fans. You will finally be able to get all the Star Wars movies in digital HD globally, beginning on Friday, April 10th. This is the first time that you'll be able to do that for all the movies legally, all 6 digital HD for the first time. Unfortunately, these are the crappy, modified versions, not the original versions, with all the terrible stuff that they have put in there, but it'll be there in time well in time for the December release of Star Wars The Force Awakens. So go out there and start downloading. You can pre-order these things on iTunes right now and get them so that they'll just download. And if you haven't seen all of these movies, you should. Now, what I recommend is a machete order. Hattie, could you Google machete order Star Wars and put that into the show notes so that the lovely listeners will be able to understand what I'm talking about? But there's a specific order that
yes,
you should watch them in. And that's very important to get the best experience. I generally agree with the machete order. So that'll be in the show notes. You can learn what the order is. And, of course, that includes watching Black Hole after all of them. My son and I did a podcast. It's called Cash's Corner. Addie, can you put Cash's Corner episode 1 into the show notes again till everyone in the world has heard it? And I did a review of his show, too. Did I tell you that? Were you there when I did that? Was
yes,
that you?
You did. Did it go through?
I have to check, but I reviewed my son's show. I gave it 5 stars, by the way. A Brooklyn woman has sued McDonald's after her husband suffered a heart attack in a locked restroom and died. And it's a sad story.
My gosh.
Yeah, it's a sad story.
That's so scary and horrible.
Look at our new camera here.
It's inside baseball.
We should call this the creepy cam.
Creep cam.
Did you know I wasn't recording for the beginning of the show, the video? I didn't record all of it.
Oh. Oops.
I thought that was something that my producer would have.
No, remember you hit record on the 2 things. That's all you do.
Okay. This is a sad story. It's happened in Brooklyn. What happened, his name is Anthony Denicola. He was 67. And I guess maybe he wasn't feeling well. He went to this restroom. Here's a picture of the restroom. And he went in the restroom.
Does that look clean to
and
you?
he unfortunately did have a heart attack. He was either having a heart attack or had one. And he went inside, and there apparently, and this is really something I never thought about my whole life, the employees were unable to open the door.
Oh.
Okay, because it was deadbolted from the inside.
I didn't even think about that.
It was deadbolted from the inside, and there was no key. There was no way for them to get in to get him out of there. So even though after a few minutes, I guess his friends that he was with were thinking, well, yeah, they had gone fishing and like, well, what's up with him? Why is he not coming out? They couldn't get in. No answer at the door.
Right.
Then they go to the employees. The employees are like, oh, we can't open it. We can't get him in the door. We can't do anything about it.
It seems like it would be against the law for them to be able to open it up if you were in a private bathroom.
Right, because that's like his privacy or something.
Right.
But somebody should have a key. Somebody should be able to get in there.
There should be a master key.
You know, like I do not allow my kids, for example, to lock the door in the bathroom. Like I was like that's not, because we can get into our own bathrooms in our own house, but it's like an extra step. If I hear a noise or if something's wrong, I want to be able to get in there. I don't like doors being locked.
What if they couldn't reach the door to unlock it?
Right.
Anything like that.
Who knows?
Yeah.
Like I don't want to take that chance.
We didn't lock doors in our house either. It was just, yeah.
At some point, I guess when you're, if you're living at home, you're 18 years old, you can lock the door. It's fine. But until you're 18, and they should be out of the house by 18. I know you had a different life, Hattie, than the rest of us. But I believe children should be out of the house by 18 unless they...
I went to school.
But you came back, and you lived there.
Briefly.
For years.
No, not years.
For years. So anyway, I think this is a serious thing. McDonald's spokeswoman has not replied. But here's a picture of the door. And there's no key or anything on the outside. You know how they had to get in there? The fire department had to come.
And saw it off?
And they had to use, I think it said that they used, like big hammers on here.
Oh my gosh.
And had to smash through the door. And it took them however long it took for the fire department to get there. And then they had to smash through the thing. Here's what it says. Firefighters were called, but it took them 15 minutes to bust the door open and get to them. And it was too late by then. He had died.
That's so sad.
Who knows how long it's just such a terrible story. But it brings up some interesting privacy questions from my standpoint, is that do you want the manager to be able to get into the bathroom? Well, it's a public restroom. So I say, yeah, if the manager needs to get in there and you're unresponsive, I want them to be able to
Right.
to get in there.
I think there should be maybe like a time limit that after, 45 minutes.
Well, then he'd be dead by then.
That's true.
He'd be long dead by then.
But what if you're having some issues in there?
Well, then someone knocks. Yeah, sorry, occupied.
Problems.
That's all I want. But if you knock on the door and it's locked, I want someone to be able to get in.
Right. If there's no answer, then I feel like after the second.
I'll give him 30 seconds.
Oh.
30 seconds to respond. If you don't respond in 30 seconds.
After you knock multiple times.
You just cough and.
Right. And you're like, okay, there's somebody in there.
Someone in
or
there.
drop
They're
something
alive.
on the ground and
right.
there's a sound.
Something to let you know that there's someone in there.
Does that look clean to you?
Sorry, I didn't mean to hit that one. I meant to hit this one. Hattie, good news for you. A judge says Brooklyn woman can use Facebook to serve divorce papers because you have to serve your divorce papers, right?
I know nothing of the sort.
Well, you've seen the movie where they're like,
you've been served.
Mrs. Cook? Yeah, I'm Hattie Cook. Here you go. You've been served. And you walk out. Like you have to physically hand over the paper.
Interesting.
So a Brooklyn woman scored a judge's approval to legally change her relationship status to single. This is a landmark ruling in Manhattan. Supreme Court Justice Matthew Cooper is allowing a nurse named Eleonora Baidu to serve. I like that. Baidu. That's good. That should be the title of this, Eleonora Baidu. To serve her elusive husband with divorce papers. She hasn't been able to get in touch with him. So now she's been given permission to serve the defendant with divorce summons using private message in Facebook. This is legit now. And it says that this transmittal shall be repeated by plaintiff's attorney to defendant once a week for 3 consecutive weeks or until acknowledged by her hard-to-find husband. That's a new law, and she says it's unnecessary. So they overturned it, and now you want to get a divorce, you can let the person know over Facebook, right there over Facebook. Perfect for you, Hattie.
Right. Totally perfect.
Well, you live on Facebook. It's all you do. Anytime I look at you, you're over there. Look at right now. You're typing on Facebook.
Yep. Just on it all the time.
This is some big news here, Hattie. The Apple Watch, as you know, will be available for pre-order. We're almost down to hours now.
Oh, man.
Almost down to hours.
As you look down
as I look
your
at my
inferior...
own... Well, it's inferior because it has quartz movement.
Ah.
That's what makes it an inferior watch. But I do like my Timex Weekender watch. But on the 10th, if you want to order this thing, you're going to have to stay up because these things go on sale at exactly 12:01 a.m. on the 10th, which means that's your Thursday night. You go to sleep. You're going to have to either stay up till midnight or 2 here or 3 or try to wake up really early and order one of these things. Apple employees are going to get 50% off the Apple Watch. Let me say that again.
Wow.
50% off the Apple Watch. Now, if you think about it, you would say, well, doesn't that seem like favoritism or something? Why are these people getting this watch at 50% off? They're already at Apple. Well, first of all, you want these people to know everything about it. You want anyone who works at Apple, you want them wearing the watch. You want every single Apple employee wearing the watch. And they're going to get it. They're going to be able to order it first because they're already in Cupertino. It seems unfair to me that they would get so many advantages, but if I was Apple, I would want every single employee to wear this watch, have the watch, understand it, be able to teach about it, advocate for it, and they're going to want to do that because they just saved hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of dollars. So good for Apple. I still am on the fence. I'd like for you to participate more in the show. Less typing, more participation.
I'm doing things that are necessary
for
to
the show.
Yes.
You're typing everything I say? Are you transcribing the show?
I'm not transcribing the show, no.
I would like to get you to be more involved in the show.
I am involved in
Less
the show.
Less computer, more
I'm
microphone.
trying to make things happen that you don't know about, so don't just
Is
continue.
It Katy Perry? Is it the Katy Perry?
No, it's not Katy Perry. Just continue.
If it's
I'm
not
doing
Katy,
something.
If it's not Katy Perry, then I don't care. Katy Perry, number 1. Chip Kelly, number 2. And a Jay-Z, number 3. And then the Chrysler 300. You got that?
Got it.
Okay. Now I'm thrown off.
You were talking about the Apple Watch, and
I don't know
you
if
want
I should
everybody
get one of
to
these.
be on.
I don't know if I should get one of these things
be
or
wearing
not.
one.
No, I do not.
No,
See,
you said no. The Apple employees. I said you want every.
I said
every
I
Apple...
don't want them to be.
You just said you did.
I said Tim Cook does. See, you're somewhere else. I want you
I'm not somewhere else
on the show.
I'm trying to make the show happen. You are continue.
You're doing something to fix this show.
I'm not fixing anything.
Mysterious?
I'm making it happen. Making sure all guests are available and
if they're
going to happen.
If Mark is not there, that's his fault. If he can't make time to be on my show, it's his fault. A North Carolina teen has written a rejection letter to Duke University's rejection letter. Did you hear about this?
No.
Duke's okay. So this girl applied to go to Duke, and they rejected her. She got a rejection letter, and then she wrote them a rejection letter of their rejection letter. So she says, she's 17. Her name is Siobhan. How do you say that? Siobhan Odell. She's 17. She says, thank you for the rejection letter of March 26, 2015. After careful consideration, I regret to inform you that I am unable to accept your refusal to offer me admission into the fall 2015 freshman class at Duke. This year, I've been fortunate enough to receive rejection letters from the best and brightest universities in the country. With a pool of letters so diverse and accomplished, I was unable to accept rejection letters I would have been able to only several years ago. She says, therefore, I will be attending Duke University's 2015 freshman class. I look forward to seeing you then. And she put the letter on Tumblr.
So she's just going to show up.
Well, Duke officials then replied to her letter and said, I understand how disappointed you are that we were unable to offer you a space in our incoming class. I want to be honest with you and let you know that it's very rare that we learn something that leads to us to change our decision. In the last 10 years, we've received 500 requests for a review and changed the decision 4 times.
Oh,
so
man.
Not a lot of...
She probably won't get reconsidered.
So, yeah, she's not getting it. But it's cute. But if all it took was a stunt like that to get into Duke...
Then everyone would be pulling that.
And everyone would be in Duke. Oh, look at that. One of us already put the show in there.
You never think that I'm doing exactly what I need to be doing.
I put this in yesterday. It says by Dan.
Then I put it in the other one.
Okay. Anyway, I put that in. So, new show with my kid. You should all check out Cash's Corner. We talk about the black hole. We talk about Speed Racer. Talk about the Apple Watch.
Mm-hmm. He has some really good insight into the Apple Watch and what it can do. What he thinks it should be able to do.
What he thinks it should be able to do. Yeah. Sending your heartbeat to a doctor.
I didn't even think about that. It's so smart.
Wouldn't that be neat? Like if this guy in the McDonald's, if the guy in the McDonald's had the Apple Watch.
Oh man.
You see what I'm saying?
It could also be like a life alert kind of situation.
Oh my gosh,
if
totally.
your heart rate reaches above a certain thing, it sends it to your ICE contact in case of emergency.
What does ICE stand for?
In case of emergency.
Oh, duh.
Hmm?
Wow. Wow. Apple Watch reservations are going to be limited to 1 per customer. Not a surprise. This news came out on Monday also. 1 reservation per customer. So what that means is I can't go to you, Hattie, and say, Hattie, I need you to stay up Thursday
and buy
night
6 of them
and
for
buy
the
1 for me and
right.
1 for yourself. You can't do it. You can only buy the 1 for me if you do that. So thank you.
That's why I don't get one.
Yeah. I'm less and less feeling like I'm going to even get one at this point.
Especially after the reviews you were reading this morning.
We'll get to those reviews in just a second. The HBO Now is now available for Apple TV, iPhone, and iPad. You get a free month free if you sign up in April. So go and check that out if that's interesting to you. It's interesting to me. And now on to the Apple Watch. And before we start talking about the Apple Watch, I would like to do a quick sponsor. Are you okay with that?
I think that's
a good time. We used to play a music bed when we do sponsors, and the fans really hated it.
So we're going to do it again today.
Let me tell you about TripCase. TripCase helped brilliant people take over 30 million trips last year by collecting their flight, hotel, and other trip items into a single app. And that's really the magic of this, is that it is a single. Oh, you stopped dancing. It is a single application that does all of these different things. Usually, you're used to getting notifications. You're used to getting information from your flight app. All right, enough of that crap. You have one application that's going to say, Oh, your flight's late. You're going to get another one that tells you, oh, here's your hotel information. You're going to get another, all these separate applications doing separate things.
You're trying to manage all of them, and
it's nonsense.
Just a mess.
It's just nonsense. Uber, a whole other app. Well, no, all of this comes together in TripCase. TripCase is genius because it integrates flight notifications. It integrates Uber. It gives you all your flight alerts. It lets you share your trip. It has this really cool feature called Remember This Place. So like if you're in a restaurant or somewhere else on the trip, you want to remember it, it'll remember that for you. Just boom, hit it in the app. It'll give you weather. It'll do seat maps. Like it's a no-brainer thing. I'm surprised everyone doesn't already know about this. All in one. And all you have to do is forward your flight or hotel confirmation to trips@tripcase.com. Their servers know who you are. They pull the information out of it. It's called parsing.
Mm-hmm.
They parse the information. They put it together. It's powered by Sabre. It has over 40 airlines, over 100,000 travel agencies. It just makes all this stuff easier, and it just works. And they've got support for Pebble and Android Wear, Apple Watch support coming soon. It's all there, and they have a special URL. Just go into the URL. It supports the show. The URL is tripcase.com/dbh. Tripcase.com/dbh. Thanks very much to TripCase for supporting this fantastic program that they make possible every day. Apple Watch review. They say that here's the thing that we've been hearing over and over again. We hear it from Farhad Manjoo over at New York Times. We hear it from Nilay over at The Verge. We had Nilay on the show. They do a wonderful video review over there. We're hearing essentially the same thing from Josh Dabalski over at Bloomberg, previously of The Verge, previously of Engadget. No, that's one ahead, sorry. We're hearing this again and again, each of the different reviews that I read, and time again, the consensus is the watch is great. You don't need the watch. The watch is supposed to make it less, notifications less intrusive. It makes them more intrusive. And time again, this is what we're hearing over and over and over again, over and over and over again. It's elegant. It's great. It works well. It's cool. It's the coolest gadget in the whole universe of all time ever.
Pretty much always.
But you don't really need it. And if you have it, it's not going to change your life.
And it takes some getting used to.
And it takes a lot of getting used to. A lot of getting used to. And there's a very, very, very steep learning curve. Let me read you a little bit of what Farhad says. I'm really enjoying this camera angle.
I know. I think it's really, really cool.
So you can see if you're watching at home, I'll tell you what these are. If you're not watching at home, you're just gonna have to wonder what I'm talking about. This screen here is the Logic that's recording the show. This screen here has the soundboard and also lets me take calls and stuff when we start doing that. This is the presenter screen so that I can get the web pages and look at links and all of that stuff, read scripts. And this machine here, I can also use this keyboard to control KVM, and I can switch over to the much more interesting video console and Wirecast. So you're not get a real true inside view, and you can see there is Miss Hattie Cook there at her new sit-stand desk over there. It's not new; she's had it, but it's new in this room. We took the incredibly long
used
table
to be my
out.
main desk.
And if you look over there, you can see the intern's desk. We don't have an intern here today on Wednesday, and you can also see that we're missing one of our sound panels.
Yep.
On the wall over there.
Or it's
where it happened to that panel?
We took it, stole it, and put it behind you.
Well, I'm gonna have to steal another one from the audio room.
Yeah,
we're out, aren't we?
I think so. We might have to take off that bottom row or order new.
Whatever you were doing, it seems to be done now. You're fully focused on the show.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Things were taken care of.
All right.
That's what I do. I just take care of things.
I know, but you were I just figured you were on Facebook.
No, never. I'm always doing something related to the show or fixing the show or making the show better, adding links to the show or something like that.
Okay. It seemed like it might have been Facebook.
No.
Okay. Well, I'm sorry.
It's okay.
Please spend less time on Facebook, and I won't think that that's all you do for a living.
For a living,
I get paid. A professional Facebooker.
I'm sure that's a job somewhere.
Actually, you don't really use Facebook like you used to.
No, my
gosh.
Why
the change? What changed?
Just first of all, it became a very dark, negative place. Everyone was just complaining. It's pretty much all they did on there. It was just political and religious stuff flying around, and I was like, I'm out. I'm going to Twitter where they're just mean to everyone.
Right, where it's universally, unilaterally
Right.
angry and mean against everybody.
Everyone, right.
Speaking of being mean, before we get our guests, Fortune, check this out. Isn't there a term for this when a company swoops in and grabs up all the good people?
Monopolizing?
No, I can't think of the term. But what these guys over at Fortune have done is they have gone in there and they have gotten all of the best folks that were over at GigaOM writing about technology, and now Fortune is coming in, and they're swooping in and they're hiring all of those people. Now they're going to be doubling down, as we are doubling down. They are going to be doubling down on tech content. The reporters that they have gotten include Stacey Higginbotham, Barb Darrow, Katie Fehrenbacher, Matthew Ingram, Jeff Roberts, and Jonathan Vanian. All have been swooped upon. Title.
Swooped upon?
Mm-hmm. And now they're part of Fortune. And good for them and good for Fortune. And I'm really glad to see this because there are some really great writers that now have potentially a really great job. The above changes, this is the article on Fortune about Fortune, their own inside baseball. The above changes highlight the determination of the leadership of Time Inc. to grow Fortune's traditional commitment to great business journalism. We welcome it and look forward to more in the future. So congratulations to them for really, really good get. And the last thing that I have before we get some guests, Hattie, have you ever heard of this app, Popcorn Time?
Never heard of it, but it sounds like it has to do with movies.
You are correct. It is a torrent streaming platform. So what this means, if you're not familiar with a torrent streaming platform is essentially it's an application that you run, and instead of having to go and download a torrent and do stuff with it on a computer and add it to a media server or whatever, this just shows the latest, greatest movies. You double click one, it torrents it and streams it and plays it for you right then. It's incredibly illegal. And it's been on Android for a long, long, long time. Now it's on iOS that allows you to put it onto a non-jailbroken device. This is a big deal for Apple. It's a big deal for Netflix because now you can get these movies and you instantaneously can stream a movie that you got over a torrent that you haven't paid for. I mean, that's bad for Apple. It's bad for all these streaming services. It is illegal. And what are you going to do about it? It's there. It's been there for a while. It's on iOS now, so that they have it just as well as the Android folks have it. And what are you going to do about that? I don't know.
I don't know.
Who should we get first? Where's the die? Well, that means you're deciding.
Jen Simmons.
Jen Simmons. All right.
Let's call
Jen Simmons of the Web Ahead.
Yes.
We'll get her on the line here.
Hello.
Jen Simmons, thanks for being so patient and waiting for us to get you on the show.
I was just watching you.
Oh yeah, that's right. We do video.
Yeah.
So look
Nice.
at now you can watch yourself. Look at you. I like your new.
I
love
love
your new
it.
avatar. Very good. Kudos to you.
Well, I turned it off as soon as you called me because.
So we've got you on the phone. Hold on, let me move. I'll move my drink. There, now it's behind your avatar in that shot. So welcome to the show. You and I, Jen,
Thank
for those who don't know, there's two reasons that people should know you that I can think of. The number one reason is you do now a website, or once again a website, but a fantastic show on 5x5 called The Web Ahead. And this is a show where you explore, it's not one of those shows that gets too mired in talk of technology or let's analyze the CSS on this web. It's not like that. You talk to people who are involved in making really great things on the web, and you talk to them about their process. You talk to them about their accomplishments. You talk to them about all this great stuff. And you're up to 101 episodes now. And ironically, for the person who was in your 101st episode, her last name is Webb. Is that a coincidence?
Yes. Wait, what's the right answer? What's the right answer? Yeah, the show really is about the web itself, about where it's come from, what's happening right now, and where it's going to go in the future. And it is for people who make websites for a living, but it's not for developers only.
Right.
And like you said, we don't get deep into the code. I mean, if I wanted to teach people exactly how to write great code, a podcast is not the format I would choose.
Yeah.
I would do a screencast or tutorials or, examples on CodePen or like those are better ways. Those the kind of dynamic classes that people make now. Those are much better ways to actually teach code. This is about, because the hardest thing about writing code is knowing even what you should write in the first place. Or the hardest thing about designing a website is understanding what a website could be. Understanding what the medium is.
Yeah.
And if you're a C-level person, you're a marketing person, you work in any position in a company that makes websites for people.
But listen to the people
you'd
you
like
get.
to be able to go into meetings and like know what you're talking about and understand the buzzwords that other people are saying. And if you listen to this show,
Jen, you get the best people. You get the best. Okay, so you got Eileen Webb, you get Jeffrey Zeldman, you got Jason Grigsby, you get Mark Bolton, Jason Scott. You get obviously, these are the Andy Budd. These are big names.
Yeah.
Eric Meyer, over and over again. You did a cool thing with him, where you kind of like went back in time.
Yeah.
With him,
the web behind.
That was really cool. You got Jason Santa Maria. I'm just scrolling through. I'm not like picking and choosing. This is just the ones that you've done in the last couple months. John Alsop. I mean, how do you go about getting these people on the show and then get them to talk so openly about the challenges and successes and failures that they've had over the years? Because it's great. I mean, this is a show, and by the way, I get to see the numbers of the downloads of your show, and it's great. This is a popular show, and it's a high quality show. 101 episodes. How are you getting this out of them? Episode after episode. Why do they talk to you?
Yeah. Yeah. I always pick a topic. Like that's my focus. Let me find a topic. Like, I want to talk about, virtual reality in the web. So who's a good person? Well, that's a bad example because actually Josh Carpenter and Vlad reached out to me on that because they're really the world experts on it. But, I'll find a topic and I'll be like, this is something we really need to talk about. A lot of these folks travel and speak at conferences and I know they'll be good guests because they have spent a lot of time figuring out what this thing is, the thing they're talking about, the topic that they know, and figuring out how to explain it to people. And that makes a great guest. Some of the folks are people I just know. They're not famous, but I know they're really smart about a specific subject. And as I've done the show, I've gotten to know more and more people, and then they recommend people and put me in touch and give me a chance to, some of the guests, I'm like scared to email them. Like,
have you ever been told no? Have you ever, like when you wrote somebody and you said, listen, I do this show called A Web Ahead. It's something I've been doing now for a few years, and I interview people, and then have you ever been told like flat out, like, no, I'm not interested? Not I'm too busy, but like, I'm just not interested. I'll pass.
I've had a few people tell me no, and I think it's because they are feeling afraid or they're feeling
really
like, I'm not worthy or I don't really have much to say, which is sad because I think they are worthy and I think they have a tremendous amount to say, but they're just feeling intimidated or something, I guess.
Well, I'm not sure why that would be because the show is a really good show. So shame on all of them.
Thanks. I enjoy doing it. I mean, it's really fun to do. And I have a list of guests I want to get, and I have to get over my own fear and because there's some, I'd love to invite Tim Berners-Lee to be on the show.
Well, why wouldn't, why, what are you scared about that for? Why?
It's just intimidating, because he invented the web.
Right, but he's just a guy. He's a guy in an office sitting in front of a computer typing right now. Now, like he's in his office typing on a computer.
And he's thinking about what he's going to have for lunch.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's a big nerd who I know people who know him. But I have to,
So that's the thing. Like anytime people email me, would you ever consider being? I'm like, yeah. Like I'm gonna. First of all, I'm gonna disappoint you because like anytime you meet someone that you look up to, you're disappointed. That's like the number one rule is never meet your idol
because they're normal.
Because they turn out to be just a regular person with flaws.
Yes.
And so my list And tell me if you think I'm going to be able to put this together, Jen.
Yeah.
My list, I've got number 1 is Katy Perry. Number 2 is Chip Kelly, coach of the Eagles. Number 3 is Jay-Z. And number 4 was who? Patty, I always
Number
forget
4
them.
was Joanna Stern, but now you have her.
That may
so.
I don't have her. She may be a future guest on the show.
Yes.
It's I don't own. You can't own a person, Patty. It's 2015.
Yes, you're correct. You're
Okay.
correct.
And you can boss your employees around and get angry at them if they're doing Facebook during the show, but you can't. You don't own them. So I've actually, Jen, you and I have done a show. We did a show together called The Daily Edition. I started out doing that and just by myself, and it sucked. And I said, please save the show. And you came on and you saved the show. And we did that together every single day for, I think, a good year. Was it almost? It was a year, right? Or not quite?
It wasn't a year, but it felt like it.
It sure did feel like a year after the
But
third or fourth episode.
It was so much fun. I think it was only 2 or 3 months.
It seems longer. I believe you. You're much better with dates than I am. And then we've met in person. We had barbecue together. You used to live in San Antonio, right?
Yes,
right here
I
in the
did.
great state of Texas. And you stubbornly moved to New York, and you stubbornly stay in New York.
Yes.
And
I get back to Texas every once in a while.
yeah.
We drove out to Lockhart.
Right. We were out to Lockhart with Jen, and we we tried 2 places. We ate at Smitty's
and Black's.
and Black's.
Oh yeah.
Remember that?
Right. You're always trying to get me out of town.
Oh, right.
Out into
Right.
the wilderness of Texas.
Yeah. Well, we've got more places here we want to take you the next time that you're out here. But in addition to doing those 2 podcasts, you also now have done a really great Web Ahead website that was something that you worked on and procrastinated on doing for years, almost as bad as I procrastinate on things. Not quite as bad, but why a website in conjunction with a podcast is the question that I think people want answered. Why do a website?
Yeah, I wanted to be able to have a home for each episode where people could comment, where I could put a transcript, and where the structure of the content, the things that got displayed on the page, sort of fit the show. So I could say, hey, this show is related to that show. These shows, this group of shows are all about CSS, or this group of shows are all about mobile and trying to understand what it means to put on a website on a small device, or these, big different themes. Here's some legal implications or some cultural implications of the web, and be able to, especially as there were more and more episodes, and now there's 101 new people to the show. A lot of times people will go all the way through the back catalog and listen to all of them. But I wanted people to be able to see, okay, I really want to learn about, I just want to focus on the shows about web design. Where can I see a list of the design shows? So I built this website so it could be that kind of home. And also put a lot of content about, like, information about each guest and things that, while the 5x5 website is pretty great, wasn't.
There's a lot it doesn't do that you can do with it, with this kind of customization.
You can go more in depth, especially on each episode and things like that. So I love it.
Yeah,
Cool. Thanks.
I don't think there's a downside in any way. And if people often ask me this, like for the podcast method, they're like, should I do a website if I'm on a network, or do I even need a website other than some bare bones basic thing if people are only going to come to it? So I'm curious to hear from you. Do you feel that this has helped in any way obviously it helps the overall experience of the show, because now, like, you can go and you can download, not download, well, I guess you can download, but you can read the transcript, and people really enjoy that. Obviously, people who are hearing impaired who can't listen to a podcast are going to benefit tremendously from being able to read that, but also wouldn't Google index that and make it more findable? Has that turned into more people listening to the show, which is obviously one of the other goals that a podcaster would have?
Yeah, it has. I mean, the site, I wanted people to be able to talk about the podcast more easily and sort of point to it and share the content in it, the fact that the show exists with each other much more easily. And since I launched the site in the second week of February, I've seen actually a lot of growth in people tweeting about it and talking about it and sharing links, and in the numbers, both the numbers of listeners to the podcast and the number of, emails I get, people saying, I just found your show for the first time, I love it. The number of reviews on the iTunes store, the number of people, going to this website, which started at 0, but
right.
like, And I'm really happy about that because I feel like the show is getting a kind of traction that it wasn't getting before. And I felt like it deserved, but maybe people didn't feel like they knew where the show was in a weird way, even though it's kind of in the same place it's always been. It's in RSS. It's, it's in the podcast stores.
Right. And I think I really love the idea of making a website like this, as long as it has supplementary information on it. I'm messing around with Wirecast while I'm doing this. Sorry. My shots this is inside baseball, but like my shots are all wacky.
Why? What happened?
It's just, it's all wrong. Someone comes in here and changes this, and I'm sorry, Jen. So as far as the future of the show and where you think this is going to go, because you could take this in a few different directions, but what happens when I know it's not possible to interview everybody, but once you get Tim Berners-Lee, once you get these big names that you've been like really wanting to get for so long, and you have them and you've done it, are you going to hit a point where you're like, okay, like I've interviewed everyone I really want to interview? Do you start back at the beginning and go over and say, you know what, it's been 2 years since the last time that I talked to this guest, I'll re-interview them? Or do you branch out to different subjects? I mean, what's your thought on that? How do you think it'd go into the future?
I mean, I might at some point get tired of doing the show. It usually happens eventually to all shows. TV show you think you'll love forever, after about season 7, you're like, okay, or season 10.
Right.
Season 10, you're like, that's good. I'm good with that show. But the funny thing about this show, The Web Ahead, is that the web itself is changing so drastically and so significantly. And it's part of why the show is popular, and part of what people find so valuable is it's a way to keep up. So as new technologies is coming out, like very soon there are a bunch of new CSS properties that are going to make it possible to do very different kinds of layout on websites. And the people who write CSS need to know about it, but also the people who don't write CSS, but who have some sort of input in how a web page is laid out,
right,
they should know about that,
right,
especially if they want to make an awesome new cutting edge website. Then they don't want to wait for the competition to do all this stuff and then be like, wow, we should catch up. And then 3 years later, launch something that like they want. So, but that's coming out next year. That's coming out this year. That wasn't around last year.
Yeah.
In a way, I feel like the other question is, what do you do with the old shows? Like, things are changing so fast. Aren't these old shows old and wrong and decrepit and dusty, and the information in them must be, now incorrect? And I'm actually really surprised that that's not true. That like some of these very, very old shows from 2-3 years ago are just as relevant as ever, which I don't understand how that's possible. But
that's
there's very little
that
that is wrong now, that expired.
In the case of your show, though, I think because it's interesting, you get great guests. It's interesting to hear what those guests say back then. It's almost like a time capsule in a way that, you can go back and you can go back to the very, very, very first episode, that you've ever done. And in a worst case scenario, you can say, well, what have we learned since then? Like I would personally love to hear like my grandfather's thoughts when the first cars were coming out. Like, is it relevant? Is it,
Right.
today? No, it's not relevant, but it's interesting. And that's, that's the thing. Like your first show was September in 2011.
Yeah.
And you're talking about second episode, responsive web, with you and Ethan. And it's like, the responsive web now, that was 4 or 5 years ago, like everyone who's in web development and design, people have entered college and graduated and begun working since you did that. They only know about the responsive web. They don't know of anything else. That's not an interesting topic, but the interview is still interesting because you can learn it. Like this was a struggle, listening to Zeldman talk and write about the web standards years ago on Zeldman.com, for example. You and I used to have this conversation a lot. The struggle that was there to be like, no, people like adopt this stuff. There's a right way to do this and a wrong way to do it. And let's move in a direction. Now that's a foregone conclusion, but you've kind of documented those steps that we took to get there, and that's pretty cool.
Yeah.
I think.
Yeah,
but you do more than just the show, Jen. What else do you do? What else do you do?
I'm speaking at a lot of conferences this year, actually, about layouts, about what's coming, how I think layouts are about to change. Probably by the time the year is over, I'll have done 10 or 15 conferences.
How are you
Yeah.
Is it like one talk that you go out and you do each time, or is it something
Yeah,
different?
almost. There's a couple this spring that I'm doing a special talk just for that particular conference, but mostly most of these all year I'm doing the same talk
Right.
about
You have like a
layouts.
bomb that you're going to drop, and you drop it and you walk away, step back.
I
and
do.
walk away.
There's actually there is a point that in this talk where especially when I was in New Orleans last fall and I was giving this talk at CSS DevConf and there were a lot of developers in the room, and I put up a code example on the slide, and then I showed a little video of using this new tool that you can add to the Chrome Developer Toolkit to manipulate CSS shapes. And I wish I'd pulled my camera out because the whole audience, people literally had their mouths hanging open. Their jaws just sort of all dropped simultaneously. And I just paused and they were just going, what? It was really fun.
That's so cool.
Fun.
Well, I'm glad that you're, so busy, and there are very few people, I think, who have been as active as you have been in this space, and so, I think clued in, if that's a phrase I can use, to the changes, and so willing to sort of embrace the changes that come about. So, Jen, before I let you go, you are on Twitter. And how do people go about finding you? You're Jen Simmons on Twitter, Jen Simmons, Simmons, Jen Simmons on Twitter, and they can go. Where's your next talk going to be? Where are you going to be next?
I am at the user UX Immersion Mobile next week on Tuesday.
And where's that? New York, of course.
In Salt Lake City.
Oh, nice, Utah.
And then I'll be at Event Apart San Diego in
See, I want to go to that.
June.
I'm trying to think of a reason to go to that one.
You should. I
That'd be
just found
fun.
out I'm going to present at Event Apart in DC and in Chicago in August.
Chicago.
So you know what? We actually have a real reason to go to Chicago. So maybe
We
I'll
do.
time it with your appearance
Yeah,
there,
maybe.
and then we can try some Chicago food, whatever they have out there.
That would be fun.
All right. So Jen, it's thewebahead.net for the
Yes.
website. Of course, you can go to 5by5.tv/webahead and find it
Yes.
there. And Jen Simmons on Twitter. Jen, thank you so much for being here. I sure do appreciate
Thanks.
it.
Thanks for having me.
Take
It's
care of
fun.
yourself.
Okay.
Bye.
Bye.
She's great. So that was good time.
Yeah. 'cause
You're very happy.
I'm timing it right to where if you start talking about, where can they find you? I'll move to the
you
screen.
do it. No, it
Yeah.
was good. I think should I have a code word that or something that I do that indicates to you that it's cut them off?
No, I think that where can they find you is like, okay, we're about to hang up. You mean
Okay.
like if they're crazy and they're like they won't
Or
stop talking?
like if I'm like, okay, bye, and I want you to be like ready to go.
Well, I like to let them say goodbye too.
Okay. Now I've got to do a spot, and then we've got to get our last guest of the day. Ooh,
That sounded like
it
a
sounded like a pong, like
yeah,
a
it did.
like
a sonar,
a sonar
yeah.
pong. We're having fun here today.
Today's a fun day.
Today is going to be a fun day.
One dog goes one
It's
way and the
still
other
not
dog goes
bright
the other way.
outside. Still not sunny.
No.
One is going east and the other one is going west. So what?
All right. So look, you can see it looks brighter though than it did earlier in the
Yeah.
show. Let me tell you about Wealthfront. Oh wait, we got to get our music. I got a lot of little steps I got to take here. We got to have our music bed. Okay. This one I think will go well with Wealthfront because it gets you pumped up,
Pump it up.
All right. Wealthfront is the automated investment service that makes it easy to invest your money the right way. You set it and forget it. If you're young, you're earning money, you probably thought about how you should be investing your money for the future. But you know what? You're not sure how to begin. Like, how do you start doing something like this? It's very mysterious, and it seems like the wrong kind of world for people to go into to say, you know what, I'm going to go and I'm going to sit down with some stuffy old guy in a suit and like explain to him that I don't know what I'm doing and just I want to invest well and make money. And you know what? If you have money already and you're not 100% sure how you should be changing those investments over time, maybe you want to be a little more conservative over time. Or what about your dividends? How can you invest them in a way that's more consistent with like saving money on taxes? All of this stuff is handled by my friends, my deep personal friends over at Wealthfront. Actually, I don't know them over there, but I know that they work really hard and they make really great software. They have 24/7 software. Software runs all the time. Did you know that?
I
True.
did.
Software runs all the time. It doesn't take breaks. And that's the way that their software works. To get started immediately, you fill out a little thing that shows your profile. So how aggressive you want to invest, you can change it at any time. And you can see all your accounts in one place, personal, joint, retirement accounts. You see every trade that gets made on your behalf in your dashboard. And every trade is made commission-free, too. They only charge 0.25% per year, which is less than a quarter the cost of the traditional investment advisor. And you don't even have to sit down and wear a suit to get this stuff done. They have a special deal for 5x5 listeners. You go to wealthfront.com, wealthfront.com/5x5, and they will manage your first $10,000 for free. Pretty cool, huh? So that's basically them in a nutshell. They manage over $2 billion in client assets. And you can go there, get your investment stuff straightened out. I'm going to stop our lovely music while I read this disclaimer. I really do have to record. I'm going to put a marker in for this disclaimer, if I get it right, and I'll speed it up a little bit. Wealthfront Inc. is an SEC-registered investment advisor. Brokerage services are offered through Wealthfront Brokerage Corporation, member FINRA and SIPC. This is not a solicitation to buy or sell securities. Investing in securities involves risk, and there is a possibility of losing money. Past performance is no guarantee of future results. Please visit wealthfront.com to read the full disclosure. Thanks
You
very much
nailed it.
to Wealthfront.
You nailed it on that one.
Okay. Yeah, I did okay. I feel like I could have done the little low voice better. Now we have our final guest of the day.
Yep.
We
our
need
final guest.
you know what? We need a song for introing a guest. And then maybe we should pick a guest as being the best guest. And we could pit them against each other to be the best one.
How do you be the best?
That's just a question we all ask ourselves, isn't it?
Right. How
do you be the
best?
How to be best? All right.
How do you be
Go
the
get
best?
Mark Hamill. Is that his name?
Mark Bramhill.
Bramhill. Mark
Bramhill. You
Mark
can say
Bramhill.
it Bramhill.
Mark Bramhill. Are you sure he's going to be on the show today?
Yep. We were just chatting. Hi, Mark.
Hello.
Hi, Mark.
Hello, Dan.
Welcome to the show. My goodness. I just want to tell you first and foremost, congratulations on your new and amazing show, Welcome to Macintosh. It is a fantastic, fantastic show.
Awesome show.
Thank you so
We're
much.
huge fans of it, and I don't know what else to say. It's what needed to be done, and it is the show that was. It's the perfect show at the perfect time, and you're killing it over there. So, welcome to the show, and tell me, and for those who don't know about your amazing show, to tell the audience about it, because it sure is great, and everyone really does need to know what you're doing over there, because it's great.
Yeah, thank you so much. I'm glad you like it. So, welcome to Macintosh. It's a show about Apple, its history, and the community around it. But rather than the style that you'll have in a lot of podcasts, including many of the fine ones on 5x5, then rather than being a sort of just sit down and talk for a few hours show, it's much more tightly edited, more in the style of something you might find like from NPR or podcasts like 99% Invisible. So it's trying to make an Apple podcast that's sort of the audio documentary storytelling style of show. So it's a pretty different from most things that are out there, I think. But I think that it's really really fun to listen to. I have so much fun making it. So
That's obvious if you listen to this. By the way, people can go to this. It's it's Macintosh.fm, which is also pretty awesome. But you call it on the website, you call it a tiny show about a big fruit company. You have such a great sense of humor about it that comes through, but it is a serious show, if you will, in the sense that, you know, you're exploring a concept and a topic, and that's obviously very interesting to you, and it's interesting to a lot of people. But, you know, it comes at a time when and I have to be honest with you, there was a period of time where most of what I talked about and most of the shows on 5x5, they were about Apple. There was a time where I was doing a show. I was doing a show with John Gruber called The Talk Show. I was doing Jim Dalrymple and I were doing Amplified. I was also doing Hypercritical with John Siracusa, Build and Analyze with Marco Arment. I was doing Critical Path with Horace Dediu. I was doing all of these shows all at the same time, and we were doing, I think, Hattie, we were doing The Frequency at that same time as that, maybe toward the end of that.
And we were still doing a lot of Apple, you know, focus news.
And I was doing Back to Work, which we didn't talk about the Apple stuff a lot, but it would come up as well. And, you know, like the friend of the show, Philip Elmer DeWitt, or Filmer, as Hattie calls him, he wrote an article about me in Fortune. He does it for Fortune, right?
I believe so.
And he called me the king of Apple Talk Radio, which I love, but it actually was like kind of like, I was like, whoa, wait a minute. Like, I don't want to be that, because like, I like Apple and I like the stuff that Apple makes, but I've got my foot in the Android space. I definitely don't really use Windows anymore, but like, I don't think of myself as an Apple guy or a Mac guy or an iPhone guy or anything like that. I just think of myself as like, I want to use the best tools that are out there. But, you know, when I saw this, Welcome to Macintosh, my first response was, oh, great. Like, we really need another show about Apple, because there's not enough Apple coverage right now. There's not enough people talking about Apple. There aren't enough. Every podcast is about Apple right now. And, you know, so like, that was my first response. But your show is different.
So different.
In some very important ways. Tell me about that. How is your show different?
So rather than just having a guest on to talk about this week's news or rumors in the Apple space or what might be coming and speculating and feelings about, oh, how do I use my phone or how do I use my Mac and tips and tricks? And it's not really any of that. Really what I'm trying to do is find stories that are, maybe some of them are recent, some of them are way farther back, and doing a really tightly produced, really focused 20 to 30 minute episodes about just one small moment in Apple's history or the community around Apple.
Right. How are you picking topics on the show? I mean, how are you going about deciding who to have as a guest and talk about, you know, things like the Moog and Tron, and you know what I'm saying? Like, how are you picking who to invite?
So for picking guests, I have a big long spreadsheet filled with potential topics and people who I've heard of who might be sort of experts on it. So for the first episode, it was about the rise and fall of skeuomorphs at Apple. And so I had a list of, okay, who are some designers in the Apple space who some are critical of skeuomorphs, some supportive of it, and just contact a bunch of them to see like and narrow it down to these are the people I think have the most to say, or people who I think would really have a insightful opinion, and try and go for the best and see who I can get. And if I can't get the people I need, then put the episode off until I can really get the experts that I feel like I need to tell the story that's to be told there. For the latest episode, it's about the Alpha Centauri synthesizer, and that episode wouldn't work if I weren't able to get its inventor, Charlie Kellner. And so that's one where I was very excited to be able to get a hold of him and make that an episode and tell the story of how this synthesizer was built using an Apple II and its use in movies and dolphin research, where it's like, this is just finding that and finding a story which maybe people didn't know about, or it's not really just known in the community, where it's one that I kind of just look for something where it's getting a sense of a story where this is something that these people, like people who read Apple blogs and have listened to Apple podcasts, will really like. And I think it comes through in the show.
It definitely comes through in the show. And one of the things that also comes through is you have a very, I believe, a very natural interview style, very casual. Is that something, if I were to describe, so for people who still haven't heard this and they're thinking, is this a show I want to listen to? You have there's a bit of an NPR feel to you. Are you a big fan of NPR?
I'm a very big fan of NPR. I'm actually a student at a workshop with Atlantic Public Media and
cool.
Stuff. So it's currently I'm learning from people, NPR producers, and that's
awesome.
That's where I'm getting my inspiration and trying to learn from. So it's very similar to if NPR did a show about Apple. That's kind of how I would describe the show.
Well, it's great in that sense, but let me ask you a question. As somebody who is a student of what is considered to be old media, radio, and somebody who is creating really, really great new media in the form of a podcast, how do those things kind of cross over? Where's the Venn diagram for you, and where do you think you would go? I mean, two-part question here, but part two would be if your Patreon takes off, or if you start getting advertisers, if that's something you wanted, not really the NPR model. The donation model is more in line with that. But let's say your Patreon goes from whatever it's at now $90, which is a sin and a travesty, in my opinion. It should be $9,000.
Yep.
But let's say it goes from $90 to $9,000. What would you still want to work in public radio, or would you say, maybe I can make a living doing the podcast that I want to do? So two easy questions for you.
Yeah. So I'll start a little bit with the second one there, in terms of what I want to do with the show and radio and podcasts in general. So making this show, like, no matter what I'm doing, I want to keep doing this. Like, even if it stays at $90, if it stays at a hobby, it stays a hobby, but I'm going to keep doing it just because it's so much fun to make. It's one of those things where I've listened to so many Apple podcasts, read so many Apple blogs that it feels like it's kind of like a labor of love. If I can make it into a business, that's great too. But it's one of those things where even though I'm studying from the old school sort of radio, learning all the things that I can from NPR, from this sort of audio documentary storytelling narrative style, I'm more interested in just bringing that into podcasting in the new media, not necessarily being a NPR producer myself. I wouldn't be opposed to it, but then that's my goal is more looking into how can I take these things from the old media and bring it into podcasts, the modern day, and sponsors and commercial stuff I think fits with podcasting pretty well. So that's I'm happy to do all of those things, and it's all stuff that I'm working on. But.
Well, I think people like you who are you are the kind of person who could, and this is going to sound silly in a way, but you're the kind of person I think who can save radio in the sense that I grew up listening. I've told this story many, many times. I grew up listening to talk radio. Even as a little kid, I was listening to talk radio. I was running around with this thing we used to have called a tape recorder. And I used to interview my family members, my friends, and even myself doing different characters. Just having such a great time doing, essentially just making tapes, that didn't, I wasn't trying to do anything with them, but like to me that was fun and important for some reason. And, like looking back at what we used to have in radio, radio was number one. Like I grew up where TV was actually, it was big and it was important, but like everybody had a radio. Not everyone watched TV, or they would watch the nightly news, and they might, some people watched cartoons and soap operas, but like we had 4 channels, that's what we had. And then radio, we had dozens of channels. We had AM, we had FM, we had music, we had different kinds of music, we had talk radio. I grew up listening to talk radio and always loved it, and always that was what I had always wanted to do. I took a 15-year detour and did software development and IT instead. But then, then going kind of back to radio, I would, if you gave me a choice between doing a podcast that was streaming live that people could download later or going back to doing essentially terrestrial radio, I would pick the podcasting for sure. But what I like is the convenience of radio and the fact that anybody can go and turn everyone. First of all, there's a radio everywhere. I don't know anyone that doesn't own a radio of some kind or another, or have a device that can do radio, or have a car that has a radio in it. I want that kind of accessibility to podcasting. So what do you think are the biggest challenges, being the fact that you're essentially learning from and working with these old school radio folks and then doing a podcast? How do we bridge that gap? How do we get radio where it needs to be, or how do we make podcasting take over radio and save it that way?
I think that all the networks that have popped up, especially then Radiotopia is a big one that I think is perhaps the biggest for public radio, the sort of old school learning from and moving into the podcasting space. I think that what they're doing and what you guys are doing with 5x5, Relay FM, Gimlet Media, all of these networks are doing a great job of making content more discoverable, trying to push them to listeners and make it easier to find. But it definitely is something where there isn't just everybody can push a button and be listening to a show. And I think with smartphones and better car integration, all these things, it's moving very quickly towards it will be that easy to do, I think. And it will be something where I see it as not that far out that radio, as the terrestrial radio broadcasts of stations, will be dying out or will have a lot of trouble.
Yeah.
And
I just wish they would wake up and say, you know what, this Mark guy, he's doing a great thing. You know what, we're going to go and we're going to email him and we're going to say, we like what you're doing. Okay. And we just want to rebroadcast what you're doing on Sunday afternoon at 3, or Tuesday night at 9. We're going to take that perfect show that you've already done, right? And we're going to take that thing and we're just going to air it on the air. Why do you think that doesn't happen more often? Why do you think, what are they so scared? Why are they so scared of us? Because I'll tell you what, that sounds like a joke, but I'm completely serious. Why are they so scared of us? Why don't they do the thing? You know what? HBO, all props to HBO. Because what HBO said is, they said, you know what? They said, we are going to give the people what they want. We're going to let them get HBO without a subscription on any device or TV, whatever, for $15 a month. Here you go. Just give us $15 a month. You can watch pretty much everything that's on HBO this month. That's genius, and they're doing the right thing, and that is the future. It took them long enough to get there, but they're there. They're there now, and that's a big deal. That's a real big deal. Why? If I was sitting there running NPR today, if I was an NPR person, and I was out there looking at podcasts and looking at what's going on with podcasting, I would absolutely 100% say, these people who are doing these great podcasts, let's license and distribute their content, or let's hire them to do content for us as well. I just don't understand why the radio stations, XM, Sirius, NPR, all these other ones aren't doing that kind of thing. Because I will tell you what, shows like yours and even a few of ours are way better than what's on the regular radio right now if you were to turn it on. I would much rather listen to what you're doing than most of the other stuff that's on terrestrial radio, for example. And I just, why isn't that happening? What's your answer, Mr. NPR?
I'll defend NPR a little bit in that they are doing some of it. I'll say they should be doing more, but I think that certain shows like Invisibilia recently have been launching as podcast first. They are available day one, podcast available to the internet and advertised perhaps more heavily that way, as well as being licensed to many NPR member stations. And so that's something where they're moving more towards it. Some stations are seeing what's to come better than others and faster. But I do think that there needs to be more of it. Like this is where things are going, and it needs to happen sooner rather than later. I don't know much as to and the inner workings of content selection, but I know that there are definitely people who see where it's going. But I agree that we need to be doing more to push for that, because I do think that there are a lot of really good podcasts that aren't on the air and that are better than some of the shows that are on the air, and that would be something that I think should be taken advantage of and should be used to help then make some parts of radio, then just improve it, breathe a little bit of life into it with some of these new creators and new shows. But
Well, I love the stuff that you're doing. And before I let you go, though, last time roundup of you, you can go to Macintosh.fm. That's a place to go to find this show. That's a great starting point. You excuse me. You do a lot of really great notes and really great show notes. You get fun pictures and stuff. You can subscribe on iTunes. You've got also you have people can sponsor your show if they want to sponsor, and of course you have a Patreon where people can donate. And I'll count me as one of them starting today. I love your show. I love the stuff that you're doing, and you're on Twitter too. If people have questions for you, what's the best way for them to find you on Twitter if they want to find you there?
I am on Twitter at MC Bramhill, and then you can find the show on Twitter at Macintosh FM.
Macintosh FM on Twitter. Thanks so much for being here. I sure do appreciate you taking out time from your schedule to do it, and continued best of luck to you.
My pleasure. It's
Thank
great
you.
talking.
Take care.
Bye.
Bye.
Such a nice guy.
So nice. Great show.
It's a sin that he's only got his Patreon only has like $90 on it.
I know.
Well, let's put that in the show notes and see if we can't.
His Patreon, I will do it right now.
I mean, I'm not going to go so far as to say you should take your 5x5 Patreon donation and send it there. But I will say, if you're out there looking for something to do, help this guy out. He's doing a great job, and we're definitely going to pitch in and help him out.
It is in the links now.
Starting out. Good guy. Such a nice guy. You can tell he still hasn't experienced the evils of the world yet. He's unpolluted by...
That's good.
He's not cynical or jaded.
No.
And hopefully we can stave that off for a while, because he still has a soul. I remember that. I remember what that was like, have a soul and be human.
Aw.
Do you remember?
I miss having a soul.
I miss you having a soul.
I know.
If you ever did have one. I think inside
It was
of
just like a black hole.
your icy exterior, there was a tiny little tiny
Like a little light.
little blue
Small
flame, a little candle.
Small candle.
That just the slightest gust of wind,
Right
and it
out.
was out. And just the wisp of smoke was all that remained inside of
Yeah.
Hattie's cold,
Dead heart.
dead husk that she is now. The husk that you see before you.
I'm a husk.
Like a corn husk.
Dried
An icy,
in the sun.
dry corn husk.
That was beautiful.
It's like if you were an Eskimo and you were out like harvesting and you're like, the land is barren now. It cannot support
Nothing
life, the tundra,
but rocks.
the permafrost. That's you.
Permafrost. That is me.
Yeah. So that's all we got for today. It was I feel like today was a weird show because I had so many problems getting the shots set up right because someone came in here and
You
changed
mean
them.
Monday's show?
No, I mean this show today now. This show.
Oh, this show.
Yeah, this one. And now the mouse just ran out of battery. Now it's reconnected. Thanks, everybody. And we are going to have more music like this one.
It's inside baseball.
Thanks to Daniel Jackson for that and the other themes that will be coming out. And thanks to you very much for listening. You can go to 5x5.tv/dbh/24 to get the show notes for this episode. Sign up for our little newsletter. It's not intrusive.
Nope.
It brings you the links every day. I want to get that to about 1,000. I'll tell you what, if you sign up for that, we will send out a secret, something secret to that.
Secrets.
Yeah, something secret they'll get. So anyway, thanks very much for listening. We will be back tomorrow, 11 a.m. Eastern, 10 Central, 8 Pacific. Watch the show, listen live, and we're going to be taking calls. I think we're going to do that Friday.
Ooh,
So if you
fun
wanna-
Friday show.
That's what I think.
Awesome.
So if you want to call in, we'll have the interns in the studio.
Yeah. Oh, one intern.
One intern.
Yes, one intern.
Do we have Cosmo Yeah. Do we need to call Cosmo?
We need to call him.
Okay.
Conan.
Conan, Cosmo, whatever. It's the same. But we'll have it. So if you've ever wanted to call into the show, I'm going to want to see some good calls, though. I'm going to want to see some effort, show some hustle. So if there's no calls, then I'll just act like we decided not to do it.
Exactly.
Instead of it just being like a tumbleweed rolling by. Thanks, everyone. And we will be back to you tomorrow. Have a good one.